About 63% of men under the age of 30 are single, and a majority of them aren't even trying to date. Why do you think that is?
I think that they have trauma from past relationships, and that has kind of formed their perspective on women and dating, and they're making decisions based on their trauma because, right, they don't want to get hurt again. They don't want to put themselves in a position of being vulnerable. And I think it's just easier to be alone and mess around than it is to actually have a solid relationship, because that requires work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's a bit of a generalization that happens when you get hurt in a relationship or something. You're like, all men cheat, all women cheat, that kind of a thing, where you just lump everyone in this certain category up together. How do people get past that?
Absolutely. It's an excellent question. We actually have a client. We're matchmakers here in Scottsdale, and we have a client who is 67 years old. His second wife cheated on him throughout their entire 3-year marriage. He wants to find love again, and it doesn't matter what kind of woman we bring him, it's not going to be good enough because he has no trust. He has severe trust issues. So the conversation that we have with him in our dating coaching sessions is, we need to get some solid ground under your feet first. And you also need to understand that what happened to you does not define you. Right? And then he said, well, how am I ever going to trust anybody? And I said, time. Right? And he goes, how much time? I said, however long it takes, right? If it's 6 months, if it's 9 months, if it's a year, people show you who they are with their actions. It's our responsibility to watch and then believe what they tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I love that's like, it's exactly what you just said. People show you who they are through your actions, so believe them the first time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, really interesting and fascinating what you just said. It seems like trustworthiness isn't necessarily dependent on the other person, but how willing you are to trust someone.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. So trust requires being vulnerable. And what are the messages that the majority of the people get growing up about vulnerability? What do you think about vulnerability? When I say, what does it mean to be vulnerable? Is that a scary thought?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
However, you literally cannot have intimacy without vulnerability. Any kind of intimacy, emotional, physical, or sexual. So vulnerability is a very important component. However, when we're vulnerable and we get hurt, then we're frightened and we become guarded.
Yeah.
So doing the work around that, processing the trauma from past relationships is so important, because if you don't, you will re-traumatize very innocent people. And when I say that, I mean, if my ex cheated on me and I never realized or processed that cheating had nothing to do with me, right? Because it doesn't. Cheating never has anything to do with the person who gets cheated on. Then I'm going to think that every man's going to cheat on me. And if I meet a wonderful man who is a solid, stable, loyal man, he doesn't even have a chance. I'm punishing him for my past trauma. It's my responsibility to work through that so that I can have healthy relationships moving forward, because until you really take a look at that stuff, you can't.
So personal responsibility is a large part of this, because if you're like, I talk about this a lot with things like health and fitness, or especially romantic relationships. If you're like, my mom didn't love me enough, so I'll never be able to love a woman.
Right.
That gives your mom the power over your dating life, because you can't change it if it's your mom, if it's an external circumstance. But as soon as you go, well, it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to change it, then you take your power back, and now you can, twist those knobs and figure out what works for you.
That's exactly right. I have seen so many people over the years. I worked many years as a psychotherapist, and I saw a lot of people that came from very, very troubled backgrounds. I mean, really rough childhoods where there was no structure. There was, no unconditional love. There was even abusive situations. And you can use those experiences as an excuse to not move forward in life, or you can use those experiences and make a decision that it's not going to define you and you're going to go in a different direction. Yeah. And so we get to decide every single day, what direction we want to go in.
It's either this person's a role model or a cautionary tale.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Especially for if you haven't seen a stable, loving, intimate relationship in your life, you go, well, I know exactly what not to do now. Right. And then I got to kind of figure out what works.
That's a great point you brought up, though. So if you've never seen a loving, stable relationship, how do you know how to have one?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So who's going to answer it?
Well, hopefully you're the dating expert.
I'm the expert, right?
Let me ask you a question about dating apps. I'm sure you guys are. I suppose you're almost competing with the dating apps because you guys are matchmakers, right?
Not at all.
So
I love the dating apps.
how have dating apps affected people's ability to form deep connections?
So they have and they haven't. The dating apps are like anything else. It's how you approach it. If you approach it and you are mindfully dating and you are intentionally dating and you are intentionally looking for somebody, for your person, you can find them on a dating app. I mean, there are a lot of people who will misrepresent themselves. There are a lot of people who aren't self-aware and they're not deliberately misrepresenting themselves. They just don't even know who they are. However, there are people on there who are self-aware and looking for the same thing you are. It requires a lot of work. It also requires a lot of time and patience. However, the swiping thing has taken dating from intentional, mindful activities to something that's very surface, almost like a video game.
Yeah.
And we're talking about human beings here. We're also talking about judging human beings solely on what they look like.
Oh, absolutely.
That's horrible.
There's a small body of text and then a few pictures, and you're like, well, based on what I know about you, no,
Correct.
or yes, right?
Right.
It feels like a marketplace sort of a thing, and I don't know if that's really optimized for deep partnership and connection.
You know, some of them are. I met my husband on a dating app, which I think is very interesting, you know, being a matchmaker, but I did. And I took my time. We actually communicated for probably about 6 weeks on the app, back and forth, before I actually met him in person. And what actually drew me to him was his relationships. We started, he would say things to me like, yeah, I'm going to be helping my mother in her garden today, and I'm going to pick up cupcakes for my son's class at school. And I started paying attention to how this man spends his day and spends his time, and the values were more aligned with mine. But it took time to see that as well. So a lot of people, you know, they meet online and they want to meet in person and they want to get it on. It takes some time. Be thoughtful.
So should more people looking to date have value-based conversations before they actually get into the thick of it, if you will?
If they're looking for a long-term committed relationship, yes, absolutely. Because when your values are more aligned, you have, first of all, you're going to be better friends. And every good, solid relationship starts with a friendship. And you can't be friends with someone you don't respect.
Yep.
And if your values don't align, how do you respect each other? Right? I can't respect someone who doesn't share my values. It's not that I necessarily will judge them, but if my values are, you know, I don't park in a handicapped spot because I don't have a handicap sticker, and I'm dating someone who thinks it's no big deal to do that, that's a problem for me, right? That's a value issue.
Yeah. There's this quote that I love, and I'm not sure who said it. I'm not going to be able to remember, but it's basically like if you have a relationship and you guys are 30 degrees off, that's easy to spot and you can chop it off. The ones you have to worry about are when you're 2 degrees off, because you can't figure it out until you're 3-4 miles down the road and then you guys are this far apart and you're like, what happened?
Right.
What the hell is going on right now? And there's these like hidden landmines in your foundational beliefs, your values, things like this. What do we believe about money? If it's not the same thing, if you believe money is the root of all evil, and I believe that it's the fountainhead from which all of your desires will spring or whatever,
Right.
then we're probably going to have some foundational issues when it comes to money.
Correct.
So how would you say that people should get clear on what they believe about certain categories and what they value?
They literally need to have those discussions, like right out in the open. Talk about things like if you're dating and then you have children, how involved do you want me to be in parenting your child? If you want me involved at all. Also, we also have parents. I'm very involved with I'm 56 years old. I still see my parents every week. Right? So those are conversations you need to have. Family values need to be discussed. How you feel about money, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be discussed in detail, but you should examine those things to 100%. Make sure that you align.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found in your matchmaking practice that some people come in with absolutely delusional standards and they go, here's my list, and it's the size of a grocery list, and I need all of these things, and if there's not one of them, it's a no-go for me?
Yes.
Yeah?
We do. We had a client who came in who wanted somebody who was fictitious from a movie. And yes, Absolutely. And, but that's exactly why they come to us. Because what we do is before we will even agree to match them, we work with them. We sit with them. I also screen for addiction, emotion regulation, psychological stability, as well as any kind of personality disorders before we even work with them to make sure that everybody's in the right place to date.
Right.
And then once we do that, I get to know our clients and I explore kind of those maladaptive patterns from past relationships. We also look at realistic goals and expectations. Yeah. So we talk about things like that. But absolutely. People come in and they think, because they're worth, a certain amount of money, I'm like weird science and I can poof, create this person out of thin air, but it doesn't work like that.
Create this man who's 6 feet
right.
and worth $2 billion.
Correct.
And he can do all these. Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't work that way.
Why do you think it has something to do with social media or movies or some form of like, we're getting into your brain and we're propagating this like dream person that you'll never be able to get because they barely even exist? How has that occurred?
So I'm not going to blame the movies because it's our responsibility, right, as individuals to watch a movie and separate reality from
fiction,
fantasy, right? However, the movies, and that's what we love about movies, right? We lose ourselves in the romance of it. But a lot of people have a tendency to go into fantasy thinking. And, that's another thing that we work with our clients a lot. They will meet somebody, they have a great first date, and it's like, boom, they've got like paragraph long text messages going out that night. And then the next day I've booked a second date and I've got a trip going here. And it's like, you just need to slow down.
Right. When you build up this like persona of your dream person and you find someone that fits a few of these qualities, you're like, oh, that's the one. And you have all of these other things. And I'm now basically idealizing you into my perfect dream person when you may only have a few of these qualities or a few of the things that I want or the values or something like this. How do people go about, like you just said, slowing down and really, really taking their time with things like dating?
They don't do well, especially if they're codependent or they have a habit of, there's also a branch of codependence called love addiction. Ooh. And that's a whole nother podcast, but love addiction and love avoidance is a whole codependent cycle. Mm-hmm. And so I see that a lot, especially with the clients that do hire matchmakers because they've had failed relationships and they don't realize that it's stemming from that codependence. And that codependence all comes from those core beliefs, maladaptive core beliefs. Yep. So we work on that. We go right to the root. Okay. Yeah, we go to the root.
What's like the single most powerful mindset shift that you try to instill in your clients?
So I am a cognitive behavioral therapist, which means our perception can be our reality. But that also means, or our perception is our reality.
Absolutely.
But what that also means is that our thoughts create our feelings create our behaviors, and our behaviors reinforce our thoughts.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Okay. You know all about CBT?
No, but I love the philosophy of what you just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the root of all psychotherapy. Almost every therapist will use that as a basis. And I literally will teach my clients how their thoughts create their feelings, which create their behaviors. So if the thought is, I'm not good enough, right? No one's going to want me. Yeah. My behavior is probably not going to try because no one's going to want me anyways. Guess what's going to happen, right? The feeling about that is it makes me feel horrible, and it's going to reinforce that thought that I'm not good enough.
You always prove yourself right.
Always. But if I change the perception to a positive perspective, right? So that's an activity too, that when you have a habit of thinking negatively, if you can catch yourself and write down those negative thoughts and then switch it to the opposite. So whatever that negative thought is, but it's practice. But yeah, you can absolutely change your entire life just by changing the way you think.
I love it.
Yeah. When you change the way you look at things, everything you look at changes.
Yep.
Everything.
Are you familiar with the observer effect?
No, tell me about it.
I think this is like a quantum physics thing, and I am so not qualified to talk about it. Okay. But it's basically when the human eye sees light, it sees light in one spot. Okay. When we're not looking at it, it's in many places at once, kind of a thing.
Okay.
Like a rainbow doesn't exist; the human eye creates it. Okay. Kind of a thing.
Yes.
So, like you just said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's really, really interesting. Because, you know, our core beliefs, our foundational beliefs are important because we always prove ourselves right. Like you said, if I'm like, no one's ever going to love me, I'm going to probably make it so that I am not loved by many people. There's the example of like, you go outside and you look for red cars and you see more red cars than you normally would.
Right.
It's like confirmation bias.
Right. If you look for negative, you're going to find it. If you
100%.
look for things that are wrong, you'll always find it. But this is also something, and this is actually from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not my quote, and I'm going to quote very loosely, but it's when you focus on the problem grows. When you focus on the solution grows. So think about how powerful that is. If you can shift your thinking from whatever it is that's causing you problems or anxiety or stress to whatever the solution is, you're already in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't people, this is a super simple question, but why don't people just think more positive?
I think it's a lifestyle. It's something you really have to practice. Also, too, there's biochemistry that comes into this. You know, some of us are born with more serotonin and dopamine than others. Also, some of us have experimented with drugs and alcohol in our lives. That changes the neurotransmitters in your brain, and it doesn't always come back up the same. If you get in a negative mindset, and that's kind of where you've lived for a while, it's very hard to break free of that.
Yeah, there's the glass half full, the glass half empty, and some people don't even see the glass.
Correct.
They're just like, everything sucks. This world is oblivion. Nothing is good.
Well, that's easy.
Right?
If you live like that, then you don't have to really work on anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you not only do you not have to work on anything, but also you don't have to you don't have to strive for anything because things just get worse. And if I try to fix something, it's going to fall apart anyway.
You're already screwed.
It seems if you do have this positive mindset like you and I share, it seems counterproductive because you're like, there's so many good things in this world. Are you kidding me? But if you're the opposite, you're like, well, you're working you can't bring your money with you. You can't. It's like, okay, for sure. Value is a very like fluffy word. Yeah. And my favorite definition, I say this a lot on this show, is Ayn Rand, who is one of my favorite philosophers in history. She wrote the book Atlas Shrugged. She defined value as something that one acts to gain or keep. And act is the main word in that quote, because if I say, well, I value a strong physique and I don't act to gain or keep it, I don't value it as much as I... Yeah, exactly. Right. So
Oh, I like that.
I love it because it's so objective and you're good. Like, oh, of course. Yep. Of course. If you had to, what is the way that you would get people to get clear on their own values rather than having like open up discourse between two people?
I'll actually tell you something. A lot of people they don't even know what values are. And I ask them like, what are your top values? And they'll be like, well, they can't even identify what values are. So I actually have an activity that I do with our clients. There are 100 values on a piece of paper. We cut out every single one with the scissors, and then I have them create four rows. Each row represents an area of their life that's important, whether it's work, whether it's sobriety, whether it's family, whether it's church, whatever it is. And then you have to put all the values underneath each area.
I love this.
Right? So once you've laid out all the values, you have to take away everything except for 10 values in each row. And it's interesting to do this experiment or to do this exercise with people because when you watch them taking out the values, they really are thinking about the values that they're going to take away. Then they have to narrow it down to 5. Then they can only have one value that they can keep. And people will be like, but no, I need this, but I need this. And they don't even realize that when they abandon themselves, they're giving up all those values anyways, right? When you abandon yourself to drugs and alcohol or an unhealthy relationship, you are sacrificing your values. So that's what we do.
That is lovely. We do something similar in the Lifebook process. We basically break down 12 categories of life, and we go, what do you believe about your health and fitness, your financial life, your career, all these things? And a lot of people... Well, number one, you need to identify who gave you these core beliefs because they may not have your best interest at heart. If it was a pastor at your church that said, well, money's the root of all evil, but you want to make $1 million, you might be like, well, shit. I don't know if this necessarily serves me right. I love the process of elimination that you just described. That's so fantastic. Are you familiar with I forget what this process is called, but Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett did this to help like optimize their companies. They would basically list every single thing that they could do inside of a company to ruin it. Just burn it and destroy the company as fast as possible. And then they would just do the opposite of everything that they listed. So if it's like we remove all of our products, you make the opposite of that, well, we make more. You just basically, I think it's like reverse something. Do you think that sort of process or something similar to that would be useful for someone's relationship? You list, here's every single way that I could ruin my love relationship. Now let me do the opposite of that. I never have a date with my wife. I should have 2 dates with my wife a week.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You know what? My first reaction was going to be no. I don't like that. Because
I probably explained that terribly.
No, you didn't. But when you gave me the example, yes, I do like that. And I just like the fact that there's something in place that keeps people mindful about keeping their relationship strong, because people get stagnant. And they don't get lazy. Well, yeah, they get lazy.
100%.
And they stop trying.
Yeah, you get comfortable.
Yep, you
Absolutely.
get comfortable. Yeah.
How important is a realistic vision for a love relationship as opposed to 6'5", blue eyes, he's in finance, all that kind of stuff?
He can be 6'5", he can have blue eyes, and he can be in finance, but he has to have some substance, and he has to have some depth, and there has to be an intellectual connection in order for it to work. So all that stuff is great, but there has to be something deeper. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's if your values don't align and you're 2 degrees off 2-3 years down the road, you're going to be like, whoa, we're not even speaking the same language here.
Correct.
Like what's going on?
Correct.
Another thing, this is another Ayn Rand ism, I guess, is define your terms. Because she was a great philosopher and she used to debate people all the time. And she used to say, me and whoever could have a 2-hour-long debate about something, and we didn't define what it is that we're talking about. We think that we're talking about the same thing, but we're talking about two completely different. There's 2 different definitions to the same word that we are talking about, and we're literally speaking a different language to each other. It's like if you say, like, I don't know, maybe independence or something. That means something to me and it means something to you. And if we don't define it, we could have a 2-hour, 3-hour long conversation about it and never come to a resolution because we're talking about 2 different things here.
Yeah.
If as soon as we go, well, independence to me means X, and then you go, yeah, I agree with that. For me, it means something like more like this, but now we can actually get to somewhere. Is defining what you mean like, well, I value independence, I value sovereignty, I value all of these things. Is defining those sort of key components to your relationship really important?
I think it's very important to define the values and the components that are important to you. But something that I was thinking about when you were speaking is that, there's a wonderful, brilliant doctor. His name is Dr. John Gottman. I'm a Gottman trained therapist, and he can predict divorce within a 92% accuracy. He is a brilliant man. And what he has discovered is that what determines the health of a relationship is how well the couples handle conflict.
Interesting. Not
what they fight about, not anything else. It's how they handle conflict. So what he also discovered is that over 80%, and I don't have the number correct, but it's very, very high. A large percentage of the fights that couples experience in a marriage will never be solved.
Interesting.
They will have the same problem throughout the entire marriage, and you just get to a place of acceptance because it's kind of like you find someone who bugs you the least. Yep. And that's what you go with.
Absolutely.
And that's what you take. But
who annoys me the least out of this group of people? That one. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that.
Yeah. And whose character defects can I live with? Right? Whose character defects can I live with? I can't live with cheating. I can't live with alcoholism. I can't live with addiction. I can live with a little bit of road rage, right? My husband has a little bit of road rage. It's not the end of the world. He doesn't shoot anybody. He's not beating anybody up. But, it bothers me when he screams at people when we're driving.
Yeah.
It's to me, that is a character defect. I can live with it.
So you're not searching for perfection, but you're searching for, I can deal with these certain things. I can deal with road rage. I can deal with, staying up all night sometimes. I can deal with a caffeine addiction or whatever it is. But some of these things are non-negotiable.
Yes, there are non-negotiables, and those you should really identify before you go into a relationship.
Absolutely.
That's important.
So what would you say to someone that has identified these non-negotiables, and maybe we'll just say he's got a bunch of non-negotiables. One of them is like has a really good family life, doesn't go out to the club and all these things. He finds a beautiful, perfect woman, and then one of the non-negotiables has been ticked, and you're like, but I really like this lady. What do you think? He's like, no, we shouldn't.
So we actually have that often. We work with our clients and we make pros and cons list, and also help them identify non-negotiables. And there has been numerous times when some of the non-negotiables have been, I don't want to date someone with children. Yet we found you the perfect person, and you might be missing out on, the best love of your life because they have a 10-year-old. You also might be missing out on two loves of your lives. It's not just...
That's a good point.
It's another human being, So I don't try to change people's minds, but it also depends how severe the non-negotiables are. I think there's a difference between, we have men who come in and say, I'm not going to date blondes. Period. I will not date blonde women. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You're not going to date somebody because of the color of their hair. And by the way, we change our hair every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like that to me, I'm not going to accept that as a non-negotiable, but like, I'm not going to date someone who drinks alcoholically. Okay. That's fair. And for me being sober, that's a non-negotiable for me.
Absolutely.
Hard drugs, anything like that. Yeah.
So there's a give and take, trade-off, sacrifice kind of a thing going on when you're vetting these potential prospects.
Yes, it's kind of like interviewing, right, for a job.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Interviewing to hire.
So I'm just gonna keep going back to the well here.
Okay.
Ayn Rand has a definition of sacrifice that says, you're giving away something of lesser value for something of more value. I butchered that, but you sort of see the thing there, which means that sacrifice doesn't really exist. You're just picking, well, I value this more than I value that. So I'm not really giving away something that like, ooh, I really like this, but I need to do this. It's just I value this more than I value that.
So you just changed the perspective from a negative to a positive, right? Just by saying what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could look at it either way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because a lot of people, they go, well, I'm dating this new girl and she doesn't want me to go to the bar with my boys anymore. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. What do you value more? Would you rather have the love of this lady or would you rather go drink with your boys every Sunday?
Well, what I would say is, so I would look at it from a different perspective what I would say is if you really love this woman and she's asking you to stop going to the bar and you still want to go to the bar, what's that about? What's going on at the bar that's more fun or more exciting than and worth damaging or hurting your relationship over?
Exactly.
If you're going to continue to engage in that behavior, also too for the woman, boundaries should be silent. They should not be like, hey, I'm going to ask you to not go to the bar anymore, and I'm going to set a boundary with you, and boundaries are silent, right? Like, hey, it really bothers me when you go out with your friends drinking, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't. That's my boundary. And if you continue to do it, I don't know if I'm going to be comfortable staying in this relationship. Then when you do it again, I'm moving on. I'm not ghosting you. I'm not, blocking your number. I'm just moving on with my life. And when you wonder where I've been, you're still behaving the same way that those values don't align with mine. I can't, if I have to be in a relationship where I have to step, I call it a circle of integrity, that we all have a circle that is just around our bodies. If I have to step outside of my circle of integrity for any relationship, any situation, I have no business being there.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I will
so
not abandon
boundaries
myself.
should be silent.
Yes, boundaries are more powerful when they're silent.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because there's kind of a, I don't mean to get all esoteric on you, but there's sort of like I don't know if aura's the right word, but there's like an energy that happens when you have, like just for example, you walk into a room and there was an argument happening, but there's no words spoken. You're like, ooh, this is weird now. This is really weird. It's kind of that same feeling when you've crossed someone's boundaries and you know it. Like when I'm talking with my wife and I make a joke that's a little bit too deprecating or something like that, she just gives me a look and I'm like, oh no.
Yep.
Right? She doesn't have to say anything. I'm just like, ooh, I'm so sorry.
And you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I like boundaries. Boundaries should be silent.
Yeah.
That's killer. What is the most common limiting belief that you see in your clients that holds them back from finding lasting love and a great partnership?
Oh, the limiting beliefs. I don't know if there's necessarily limiting beliefs. I think that what I've seen mostly in our clients are people who have, most of them are professionals, executives, and they've spent a large part of their lives committed to their work and their business, and they don't know about that work-life balance. And so I don't know if there's necessarily limiting beliefs, but it's kind of like if they've never tasted chocolate, you don't know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so it's about educating them about that work-life balance. And that's actually where my partner comes in, because she's a retired CEO and very well knows all about that work-life balance. So she will often do business coaching, business and relationship coaching with our clients as well to help them achieve that.
So I was talking with Tiana the other day, and I explained work-life balance is. I like changing this. My mentor Alex Mendosian says work-life balance. I don't do that. I do work-life harmony. Because balance is 50-50 always, but sometimes my relationship requires 90% of my effort and my career is 10, and sometimes it's the opposite. It's like a modular. It's the scales, right?
Yes.
It's like, yeah. So You can't 50% everything going on in your life, right?
No,
there needs to be like, and sometimes you need to have a talk with your partner that's like, hey, for the next 3 months, I'm going to be pretty withdrawn. I need you to show up for me because I'm going to be working my ass off. I'm going to be doing 16-hour days. I'm going to be doing all this stuff.
That's the key, though. You are communicating.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I was talking about with Tiana.
Yep.
If you don't communicate, no one is a mind reader as much as you want to have your mind read.
Yep.
If like I have this I have this thing where I have like this super rigid internal schedule that I hope everyone like abides by and acts in accordance to, even though I never say anything about it. I'm just like, okay, I ordered this Amazon package and it needs to be here by April 3rd. And if it's not here by April 3rd, I'm going to be pissed and I need to do this by 11. If I don't do it by 11, I'm going to, all of these things. And then if someone else doesn't act in accordance to that schedule, I get mad. And then I have to remind myself, hey, wait, I'm a dumbass because I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So how are they supposed to know?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So communication is key, and that's sort of that's a little bit trite, but it's also true.
It's true, but the other piece to that is a lot of people don't know how to communicate in a healthy manner. And that's important too, because like we talked about earlier, they didn't have anybody modeling healthy behavior growing up. So some people don't know how to communicate in a healthy way.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
How would you say the quality of a very healthy, very loving relationship impacts the other categories in your life, from health and fitness to your character, maybe your finances and career?
So I don't want to sound codependent, but I am. Having a healthy marriage myself, having a beautiful marriage myself, it is kind of the base from which I operate.
Yes.
You know, it's just the base from which I operate. And from there, everything else is just kind of a bonus. And I have my best friend that gets to share all of this with me. That's the best part. So, yeah.
I love that. Me and my wife share there's like I guess you could call it a premise or a foundational belief that our relationship is like an oasis in the middle of a desert, and every time I'm all sunburnt and all fucked up, I come back to the oasis and I get all healed up by my lady. And we're I guess you could say we're very polarized, because whenever I am without my wife, it's hard for me to operate at like a fundamental level.
Right.
I can't, like I haven't operated a dishwasher or a washing machine since I was like 16 or something.
Yeah.
And she does all of that with a smile on her face, and then I do all of the stuff that I do with a smile on my face. I blow off our deck with a leaf blower, and I do all the stuff that I do. And since we have a sort of defined, I guess, like, I don't want to say job description, but it's similar to that.
Yeah.
then we kind of know.
You each know your roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
You each contribute.
Yeah, 100%. As opposed to a relationship that's less polarized, where there's a little bit of overlap, and then some things maybe don't get done at all, or some things get done more so than they need to, or something like that. Do you see that polarization in a relationship helps or hurts?
I like it, and so. Also, too, that spectrum is very subjective. You know, my own life. And so all day long, I'm a boss. I'm not going to say the word, but I am. Tiana and I are after it. Like, we are working. We are in it. And it's all day. But when my husband gets home, I make room for that masculine energy. And I want it. I want to be done. And I want him to come in. And I do also the stuff in the house. Like, you know, we also have our jobs. And, you know, I don't even know where our garbage cans are. Which is a good thing, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that I like that. I think that the polarization, I think it's good. Yeah.
So a large amount of marriages, I'm not sure the actual percentage, but a large amount of marriages end because of some sort of financial stress or financial issues. Why do you think that's such an apparent issue with relationships in general?
Ego. Ego is the death of all. It's the death of everything. And unfortunately for a lot of men, and again, we were just talking about roles, right?
Yeah.
Not unfortunately, a lot of men, their role is to provide financially for the home.
Yeah.
And when that is threatened in any way, they take that personally. And, you know, they forget they're human. And life is hard. Earth is a difficult planet. Things happen, as well as we have partners that we're supposed to go through these things with. But a lot of men, especially because of their egos, will guard that. They will hide that and take it on as a personal failure. So, and that's a big problem in marriages.
I've heard that some men take issue with the fact that their wife will say makes more money than them. Why do you think that is?
Ego. Ego. I mean, and it's interesting, you know, I have a very healthy marriage, and I have a beautiful husband who, you know, makes tons of money. And when I started making money, I had a very high paying job as clinical director of a treatment facility. And it was the first time in our marriage after 10 years that I was earning an income. He was really proud of me, but it also kind of threw him off a bit. I think he in a way he was thinking, wow, she can do this on her own. She doesn't necessarily need me. Like, she can support herself. I mean, he got over it quickly, but it was a little bit of a threat to him.
Okay.
Which I think is interesting.
So yeah, that's definitely fascinating. The whole what if she doesn't need me kind of a thing, right?
It's a security thing. It
that's really interesting.
That's
really interesting. Because I'm 100% dependent on my wife, and she's I would like to say 100% dependent on me as well. And if there was ever a point where, whoa, that actually, okay, hold on. That's very
right?
interesting. Yeah. Of course, if she was making more money than me, I'd be like, awesome, we make more money. But then there would be this sliver that goes, well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Because what if you don't need me anymore?
Right. What if she just got a job tomorrow for $280,000 a year salary? You'd be like, yeah, we're in the bank. But then you'd be like, wow, she's like moving on up. Like, she can really, and then you'd come around and be like, oh, I'm so proud of her.
Okay. So it takes
a minute.
It's probably largely an ego thing, but there is some sort of a security/insecurity issue with that as well.
And I think it's normal. Yeah. And I don't know that all men go through that, but I mean, some do.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that it's apparent in a lot of like business owners especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something though. I just want to go back when you were talking about your relationship as an oasis. I love that, because one of the things that I have always taught all of my couples over the years in marriage and family therapy is to view your relationship as a separate breathing entity.
Absolutely.
From each of you. And just like you need food and water and sleep and love, your relationship needs to be nurtured by both of you.
100%.
Yeah, I like that. And so I like that oasis is such a beautiful, safe place for you.
There's a there's a book, I'm not sure what it's called, but it basically outlines exactly what you just said. There's three entities in a relationship. There's you, there's me, and then there's our relationship. And whenever there's an argument or some sort of a debate going on, that's between you and me. the relationship is completely out of the question. That will never be, complicated or anything like that. That's a super, super important thing for the health of your relationship, right? Because if you in any way complicate or deprecate your relationship at all, that's hard to come back from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, words are hard to come back from.
Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
teach people how to fight. I teach people how to argue in a healthy manner. People forget when they're in an argument that they're arguing with someone that they love.
Right.
And so one of the other things, and I'm going to go back to Dr. John Gottman, he teaches people to look out for something called the Four Horsemen. And when arguing, you have to look out for defensiveness, stonewalling, criticism, and contempt. When those four things are present on a consistent basis during arguments, you are headed for trouble. You're headed for divorce.
Gotcha.
Higher rates of divorce. So knowing these, educate yourself. Educate yourselves on these things. When my husband and I argue, there will be times in the middle of the argument where I'll say, "You're being critical. I'm being defensive. Now you're stonewalling. We're doing everything we're not supposed to do. Let's stop and reset." And we do. Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's lovely.
It's called The Four Horsemen by Dr. John Gottman.
Having that self-awareness to be like, wait a minute, wait a second, we're doing the bad stuff. Let's circle back in like 10, 20 minutes and then figure out what's going on.
There you go.
That's incredibly important.
Teaching people how to argue in a healthy manner is important.
Yeah. One rule that me and my wife have developed is, obviously you're sober now, but we never argue when there is alcohol in the situation.
Oh, no.
It's literally like putting alcohol on a fire.
Correct.
It makes everything blow up, and there's, you forget what you're even arguing about at a certain point, and you're like, oh, well, I'm just mad now.
Yep.
It's a terrible,
and
terrible
be
thing.
careful, too, with words that we use. People,
Absolutely.
we say things when we're angry, but you can't take it back.
Yep.
And whoever has heard that can't unhear it. And words do hurt. They do have meaning.
Yeah, it's like sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Not
Bullshit.
true.
Yeah.
Words hurt like fuck. Are you kidding me?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And they can create resentments and all kinds of stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
If you could go back to your younger self, what is one piece of advice that you would give her?
Oh, it's going to be okay. Don't be so scared. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Where can our audience come to check out maybe your social media or My Mindful Match?
So My Mindful Match is on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And we also have Deconstructing Dating on YouTube is our podcast.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it.